Hi again, everyone, and welcome to Flyer Nation, our weekly look inside Lewis University athletics. I'm John Fitzgerald. This week, we'll visit with Lewis University men's volleyball coach Dan Friend, whose Flyers are once again nationally ranked and off to a 4-1 start to the campaign. Flyer Nation's Patrick Hennessey sits down with two members of the men's volleyball squad, Joe Kenzinger and Tyler Morgan, to get some insight on their athletic backgrounds and experiences as members of the nationally ranked Flyers. And we'll also preview the upcoming week in Lewis University athletics. But first, it's time to take a look back at the week that was in Flyer athletics, brought to you by Valley View Dental of Romeoville, the official dental care provider for Lewis University athletics. After a slow start to the season, the Flyer men's basketball team has been red hot since the onset of GLVC play in December. Scotch Rose Club won their sixth straight last Thursday night with a 70-69 come-from-behind victory at Indianapolis, a ball game in which the Flyers erased a 13-point deficit en route to completing the season sweep of the Greyhounds. The six-game winning streak did come to an end on Saturday afternoon in Evansville as the Red and Black dropped a 67-57 decision at Southern Indiana, despite a game-high 18 points from Bruno Williams. Flyers are now 6-6 overall and 4-1 in the Great Lakes Valley Conference. The Flyer women opened their road trip with a 69-56 loss at Indianapolis last Thursday night, but they rebounded in fine fashion with a signature victory on Saturday as Matt Nelson's Flyers upset 25th-ranked Southern Indiana 72-63 down in Evansville. Taylor Galuza led the way with a 20-point afternoon, while Grace Hilber added 19 points as the Flyers posted their first win over a ranked team this year. The Lewis women's basketball team is now 5-10 overall, 3-4 in conference play. The Flyer swimming squad celebrated Senior Day in fine fashion this past Saturday, as the men and women were both victorious over Maryville at the Lewis University pool. The Flyer women defeated the Saints 176-58, while the 25th-ranked men's team flexed their muscles, posting a 174-50 victory on the afternoon. The Flyer men and women each captured 11 of the day's 14 events in their respective meets. Flyers are back in action next on Wednesday, February 9th, when they head to Elkhart, Indiana, for the 2022 GLVC Swimming and Diving Championships. Men's and women's track teams competed in the Notre Dame Invite this past Saturday in South Bend. The men and women combined to record 30 top 8 finishes, as well as 3 provisional marks inside the Loftus Center on the University of Notre Dame campus. On the women's side, Natasha Burnett won the 60-meter hurdles, while Jamie Poppin captured the pole vault event on the day. The men boasted 3 first-place finishes on the day. Dustin McCuba won the 3,000-meter race, while Justin Rivers captured the high jump. Keegan Zach took home the triple jump with a provisional mark of 14.61 meters. And finally, the 7th-ranked men's volleyball team split their weekend homestand inside Neil Carey Arena. Flyers dropped a hard-fought match to 5th-ranked Long Beach State on Friday night. Tyler Mitchum led the way for the Flyers with 15 kills and 5 blocks. Lewis rebounded on Saturday with a 3-set sweep of Belmont Abbey behind a match-high 11 kills from Jason Gibbs. Flyers are off to a 4-1 start to the campaign and currently ranked 7th in the latest American Volleyball Coaches Association national poll. That is our weekly look back at the week that was in Flyer athletics, brought to you by Valley View Dental of Romeoville, a family dentist that treats you like family and the official dental care provider for the Flyers. Visit them online at vvdental.com. When we come back, we will talk Flyer men's volleyball with head coach Dan Friend as Flyer Nation rolls on right after this timeout.
Fat Ricky's is the perfect family meal for game days, weekdays, even holidays. This year, ditch the time spent in the kitchen and spend it with your family around a delicious homemade catered meal from Fat Ricky's. Fat Ricky's caters delicious meals for groups big and small, including trays of their mouth-watering pastas like their famous Papa Rich's casserole, homemade Italian beef, country fried chicken, plus all the sides and fixins. And come see their new banquet room in Romeoville. With convenient locations in Plainfield, Romeoville, and Tinley Park, Fat Ricky's has the Southwest
Windy City Limousine is a proud sponsor of Lewis University Athletics. We have every type of vehicle from sedans and hybrids to 55-passenger motor coaches, including SUVs, limousines, executive vans, luxury minibuses, and party buses. You cannot beat Windy City's competitive rates and first-class service. Find out why customers throughout the Chicagoland area and around the country are choosing Windy City Limousine for their car and bus services. Call 847-916-9300 or visit windycitylimos.com today.
Welcome back to Flyer Nation. The Lewis University men's volleyball team is off to a 4-1 start and currently ranked 7th in the latest Division I national polls. We welcome in Flyer head coach Dan Friend, now in his 18th season at the helm of the Flyers. Thanks for stopping by, Coach. And the 4-1 start, off to an outstanding start for the campaign.
Yeah, I think ultimately we got some new pieces this year, and with graduating some talented players last year, and those guys have found a way to make an impact on the court for us and do some nice things, along with some returning players and like Mitchum and Kevin and Carlos and all that stuff. And so and those guys had a great opening weekend. Even with me not here, Kirsch stepped in and did a nice job for us, and the guys really stepped up. And then this last weekend, certainly playing a talented Long Beach team, got to really test where we were at, what we need to get better at. And then we were able to rebound with Belmont Abbey, and looking forward to this next weekend and maybe a little bit warmer weather, do you know what I mean, in terms of that. So.
A 3-1 loss last Friday, the 5th-ranked Long Beach State team at the time. They've since moved up in the newest rankings, but really a hard-fought loss for you guys against that club that it was 3-1 was the final. A lot of close sets, though, in that one. You guys weren't very many points away from really being able to turn the tables on that Friday night.
Right. I think sometimes that's the tough part, because it's like it was really on us. I think we, had too many service errors at the wrong time, and kind of at the same time, from a passing standpoint, we could have been a little bit cleaner. But good things and bad things. Ultimately, and you're in that moment, you have an opportunity to turn some points and make wins on that, and hopefully you can learn from that pretty fast and put it on the court when we go this next match this week, and we play a couple more ranked teams. But Long Beach is talented. Nothing to take away from those guys. Nikolai, who's our freshman kid from Bulgaria, he stepped up, and ultimately he was a player of the week nationally, and he's a talented young man, and they have some other really nice pieces, or libero and a couple of their other pins. And so, but that's what we want to be at that level, and we want to be there, sooner versus later, but certainly by the end of the year. And so we have some things to aspire to and to get better at. So.
5-0 is pretty much obviously in 5 matches what most coaches would want. You guys are off to that 4-1 start. The lone loss, as we said, to that 5th-ranked team in the nation. You've also battled a few ill-timed early season injuries, and even that dirty word that starts with a C and ends in 19 at times in the beginning of this year.
Right.
And it's forced some guys into some different roles, maybe some guys to step up, which at the end of the day, as you look ahead to not only the difficulty of the conference season, but also who else you're going to play in non-conference, knowing some of those answers early on is probably a real benefit to your team to know exactly what pieces you have.
Well, it does. I think it is unfortunate. We have a couple of young freshmen, Max, who broke his finger and had to have surgery, and Chase, who rolled his ankle pretty bad. And those guys are both trying to make their way back to the court, and it'll take a little bit of time. Some other guys have had to step up into some different roles, which is key for building depth. At the same time, when they're freshmen, those guys haven't really touched the floor yet. And so, we're seeing where those guys are going to be at by late February and March. And so, and they could be important pieces, and so we're just trying to figure out what's the best lineup for us this year in terms of the pieces that we do have. And that's what we've been working through a little bit. And whether it's John Davis or Gibbs or Cole's been great for us as a returner this year. And so we're just trying to figure out what the best lineup is in those pieces. Tyler Morgan stepped in as a freshman, and we ran a little bit of a 6-2 with Kevin Collin. And, we got a couple new middles that have had time on the court. Certainly Sack's been out there with Tyler Mitchum. And so, part of that early season and scheduling tough is testing these guys and making them understand, hey, this is a level we have to play. And certainly we want to get a couple of those signature wins, but at the same time, you have to take some of those losses to get there. And that's just part of the process.
Talking about scheduling, obviously the MIVA year in, year out, one of the best in the country with regard to depth and parity, but your non-conference slate, and this weekend upcoming is a perfect example. You're going to go to Pepperdine, you're going to go to UCLA, 2 of the top 5 ranked teams in the country. That really is an important structure in how you build your program, isn't it? Is really being tested with those Power 5 big-time schools in the top 10.
Yeah, certainly it is. I think whoever the head coach is, I don't know why his schedule is so tough. But at the same time, if you go back and look, we always do that. It's about understanding that we want to compete for a conference championship every year, and we want to compete for a national championship. And in order to do that, you have to play some of the best teams in the country year in and year out. And you may go up and down a little bit with the level of play you want on your own gym, but that's part of getting better. You have to challenge yourself, and you have to play in opposing gyms, and you have to make those road trips, and you certainly want some of them at home too. But that's, just culture-wise, the process of building a program and playing at elite level, and we need to be able to do that. And these guys will learn that this weekend, and I thought they competed well against Long Beach, but now you got to go on the road and go into Pepperdine's gym, and you got to go into UCLA's gym, and that's a different field than being in the confines of your home gym.
Absolutely. So. You guys, this is year number 18 for you at the helm of the men's volleyball program here in the Romeoville campus. 36 All-Americans. You guys have had a ton of success, 3 Final Fours, 5 MIVA championships. Consistently ranked in the top 10 nationally. As a matter of fact, I believe it's 183 consecutive weeks that you've been in the national polls. As you go through and look at most college sports, there's always a cyclical nature as guys come and go, guys graduate through, guys do get injured. So there's always a little bit of peaks and valleys involved in college athletics for the most part. You've had 36 All-Americans. You returned 2 into the program this year, into the 22 season. When exactly does the reload start? Because at 18 years, it really doesn't look like it's been the case at all.
Well, I appreciate that, but I feel like I'm reloading right now too. And so I think we've been blessed to have a lot of good guys come through the program and a lot of great coaches on the staff. Lots of support from Lewis Athletics as well as the administration. Those are all key pieces in terms of us becoming successful and sustaining success. I do certainly think there's a mantra with our program in terms of family, having fun, having a great experience that really helps to build that consistency year in and year out. I think that's just part of that process. And so we just keep trying to do that. And like I said, I've been fortunate with all those good things that are kind of on our table, and it's good.
Coaches with standards are a phenomenal blueprint as far as how you want to build a winning program. If you have standards that you keep the players accustomed to, that they have to live up to, that's usually a good start. But it really takes the individual players and the peers to be able to follow those through and demand those on a day-to-day basis. And that says a lot about the character of the type of guys you've had in this program, I think, over the years.
Oh yeah, I do think we've been, and I think when I first got here and we were rebuilding, we brought in, basically anybody we could get, and then we got to a point where we were sustaining success, and then the recruiting process, it became personalities and family interactions, and that's certainly recruit talent, but now it's like, what type of kid is this? How is his family? How did he grow up? How is his personality? And those are important cogs. And then as they get in here, understanding the values that we have to kind of live by and do things, and that's really important to me, and how we carry ourselves, and certainly with pride and understanding where we come from and Lewis and the program and the history, and all those things are really important pieces to me in terms of us being successful. And then the guys kind of have to buy in with that, but it doesn't take much. Do you know what I mean? I think they already walk in understanding what we need to do and how we need to do it. And then I think grooming the captains and the leaders is the other important piece. It's like those guys got to withhold that standard with that group year in and year out, and they see the guys above them. And I won't say things don't slip sometimes, but I think as soon as they slip, then it's like, how do we correct that right then? How do we make it a little bit better? How do we make sure we're fixing that and improving upon that? And so I think this is going to be one of the more challenging years. Like you talked about, we had a few injuries, we had a few new pieces, but the guys have responded well so far. You know what I mean, in terms of that. And that's a key thing in, like, we call it callous, how callous are the guys in terms of dealing with adversity, COVID, injuries, me leaving for a little bit, all the things that kind of come up. Can they be thick-skinned? Can they deal with it? And then can they push through? And that'll make us better towards the end of the year when it really counts in the terms of postseason play.
You talk about recruiting a little bit, and I don't care what sport it is, at what level, Division III, Division II, Division I. Every place has unique challenges from a recruiting standpoint. Not every program in the same conference is built the same way. Some have a lot better facilities, some are in a better location, et cetera, et cetera. But for you, your recruiting aspect is not only the fact that it's Lewis University, athletically a division school from an NCAA athletic program across the board, but you're also recruiting against Power 5 schools. So it's even amped up a little bit more from a dynamic standpoint of how challenging this must be, especially to get the talent you guys have gotten over the years.
Yeah, well, I would say I have this special bag that I spring fairy dust on guys. That's what I tell people. But I think it's really about selling our culture and our program, and certainly where we play, how we schedule. All those things are important pieces. I sell the strengths of Lewis. Understanding what you're recruiting and what you're recruiting to is really important, like small class sizes and lots of good degree options, lots of teacher interaction, and so all that stuff's really important. The connection with our alumni once they graduate. We build upon all those things that kind of sell Lewis. And then our men's volleyball program, what are the things that sell it? Do you know what I mean? The level we compete at, where we travel to, the types of guys that are within our program. And so you kind of have to know yourself. And we'll certainly recruit a couple blue chip guys, top level guys, and we'll grab one or two of those guys. But we don't change from finding the guys that are maybe a little under the radar, got to train a little bit more, because I think those are our strengths. And those are the guys where we look for. It's like, hey, maybe this guy isn't, quote, the top guy, but he's got a lot of potential in the pieces that we like, that we can train well. And we've seen guys have a lot of success for us that are those types of players. And then geographically, if you look at our roster, we certainly have some Chicago kids, but we try to pepper in some different areas, East Coast, West Coast, Florida, Puerto Rico, things like that give us a different cultural vibe in terms of different areas geographically in the country, and I think that's boded well for us as well.
You guys have been to, because they didn't hold one in 2020, you guys have been to really 2 straight Final Four appearances, 3 during your tenure, including a championship game appearance. How important has that been from a recruiting standpoint to really put Lewis in the national level?
Oh, it certainly helps. I mean, you walk in the gym and there's 7, 8 banners, and they made Final Fours before us, and so I think the history of the program helps. The history of our women's program helps. Fortunate, Laura Lee, being my wife, is a women's coach, and they've had a ton of. I'm always chasing her anyway. 15 straight NCAA tournaments, and she's got a bunch of banners up there too. So a kid walks in, it just talks about the volleyball programs at Lewis, and I think that helps sells that, in terms of that. And so I'd be a lie if it didn't, Certainly we have the other things and the other things we talk about, but I think people come in and are like, hey, they've generated success for a continued period of time and are looking to continue to do that, and it certainly helps in selling what we're trying to do.
So is your drive to get back to a Final Four and continue to be successful based in your competitiveness as a coach, or really just being able to win the argument at home?
No, it's not. Laura Lee's better. She got a better winning percentage. I'm never going to catch her. That's just how it goes. I think I want to win a national championship. We were 2 points away in a Game 5, 22-20 in 2015. That's the goal. The goal is to win a MIVA championship. The goal is to win a national championship. And I don't think I'll be satisfied until that happens. And certainly along the way, though, like graduating guys, the relationship to my players is probably the most important thing. We have guys that are married now, having kids, have families, they're a part of it. That part is extremely important. But the competitive side of me, I want to win a national championship in terms of that. And that's what we're trying to do here. So.
You guys are off to that 4-1 start. As you kind of take a look at the MIVA schedule in and of itself this year and handicap a little bit of what you see coming ahead in February and March.
Well, certainly, yeah. So we've got this non-conference slate that's left, and this will certainly challenge us 3 top 6 ranked teams. In terms of who we're playing. Then we start conference play, and our conference is tough. Like Ohio State, Loyola, Ball State is currently 3-0. They head to Hawaii. Purdue, Fort Wayne, McKendree, Lindenwood, Quincy. McKendree's super talented and returned everybody. And so our conference slate's going to be tough. And so I think the idea of this preseason schedule setup was to build us into that conference mode. Because, ultimately, if your RPI is good and you can win some of these games early, that makes a tough schedule, then that makes an opportunity for you to get an at-large at the end of the year. But you still have to play well during conference, and that's a key component. And I think our goal as we get into conference play is 1 game at a time, and we want to host as many rounds as we can with the conference tournament when it gets to that point at the end of the year. Because if you don't have those wins early in January and February, and we get to the late part of the year, it's really, you got to win the conference tournament. And that'll be you peaking at the right time to put ourselves in a position to make an NCAA tournament and make that run again. And so I'm excited as we get going here, and we're getting control of COVID, hopefully a little bit in terms of where we're at, and the guys are working hard, and I think we're headed in a good area.
Well, Coach, best of luck this weekend out on the West Coast, and best of luck rest of the way.
All right, thanks for having us.
Thanks for stopping by. That's Lewis head men's volleyball coach Dan Friend. When we come back, we'll hear from 2 members of the men's volleyball program, Joe Kenzinger and Tyler Morgan, who sat down with Flyer Nation's Patrick Hennessey earlier this week. That all comes your way right after this timeout here on Flyer Nation.
Flyer fans, the Golden Corral in Bolingbrook offers an endless buffet of delicious comfort food classics. Located at 381 Brookview Lane in Bolingbrook. Stop by and sample their fried chicken, meatloaf, pot roast, and freshly carved sirloin. The Golden Corral offers a complete salad and dessert bar, along with a wide variety of side dishes. Create your own unique and perfect plate. The Golden Corral in Bolingbrook, a proud partner of Lewis University Athletics.
Flyer fans, the Donut Shop in Lockport is the perfect spot to indulge in the area's finest sweet treats. Located at 1143 East 9th Street in Lockport, as well as their new location at 23836 West 135th Street in Plainfield. The Donut Shop offers 28 varieties of freshly made donuts, as well as a full assortment of specialty donuts. Lewis students and staff will receive 10% off any order with valid ID at either Lockport or Plainfield locations. The Donut Shop, a proud sponsor of Flyer Athletics.
I'm Patrick Hennessey here alongside Joe Kenzinger of Lewis Men's Volleyball. Joe, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, so first question I have for you, what inspired you to start your athletic journey in general?
Well, I think I grew up like most kids where I played a lot of the sports, pretty general story. Yeah, a lot of it was just, like t-ball, baseball.
Yeah.
Just all the soccer, simple stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
And when you first came to Lewis, you did redshirt your freshman year, correct?
I did.
Why is that?
I think the best thing about redshirting and the reason why I think I did was because it's not so much maybe that your skills aren't there, but your body also isn't there. And I think the biggest thing about redshirting is your mind isn't really necessarily in the right spot because you're still transferring over all these things that you learned from high school and club and now into the college gym, and sometimes that can be a really difficult transition.
Yeah, most definitely. And speaking of, the other things, what major are you studying and why did you choose that major?
Well, I finished this summer I finished with my undergrad in history. The reason I chose that was because I knew that I wanted to be a teacher, and that's actually what I'm in grad school right now for. So I'm getting my secondary education master's and also my teaching certificate, and I'll be a high school history teacher.
Awesome, that's great to hear. And besides volleyball, what's your favorite part about going to Lewis?
I think my favorite part about going to Lewis is the relationships that you get to make, and it's not just with your teammates and the people that you go to class with, but it's the teachers, it's the faculty, it's the staff. Everyone has great intentions and wants the best from you and wants you to be successful, and I'm extremely lucky that we got to go through that.
You've obviously been at Lewis for, 5 years now? Yeah, that's a long time. And you've been a player that throughout your years here, you haven't got a ton of playing time. Obviously Lewis being such a prestigious volleyball university, not a lot of guys do. So what has kind of inspired you to stick with this team all 5 years despite maybe the limited playing time on the court?
I think the one thing that I'm really grateful for is the fact that it hasn't always been easy.
Yeah.
And for some guys, it is really easy. They immediately come into the gym and they're successful. But I think coming here and struggling is a microcosm of life itself when things aren't going to be easy. And the more persistent you are and your ability to stick with yourself through the hard times and keep hope, I think that's the reason why I stayed here, is because you find that your purpose in college and your purpose in your career might not be self-centered. I think my career and my time at Lewis has been not about myself, but it's about bettering other people, bettering the team, and all those other little lessons that you learn. I think it all happened for a reason, and I'm super glad that it was the way that it is. Yeah,
and it seems like, all your teammates, your coaches love you, so, we're obviously glad you stuck around all this time. And then speaking more on a personal level as well, we know that you're kind of a player that's into a lot of meditation. Could you maybe go into that a little further?
Yeah, I actually was just on the phone with an old teammate today, and we talked about how meditation can kind of really change your perspective on life. I think in our society today, we're so stimulated by advertisements and TV shows and movies, or you name it, music, and I think it can kind of take away from what our brain really is, and it's just what it is. When we're bombarded by all this information, I think we can lose track of what actually is important. And when you meditate, you kind of step away from the present reality and you just focus on nothing. And I think there has to be a balance. There has to be a yin and a yang to being an athlete, being a student, you know, if you're a teacher, whatever, with also having time to take for yourself, you know, meditation. Yeah. So I think it's an amazing thing once you really get into it and, you know, sort of find enjoyment in it. And it can really change your life. It's changed my life for sure.
Yeah. You know, mental strength obviously so important for every athlete. And my final question for you, do you have any pregame rituals or maybe a song you like to listen to, anything like that?
I just want to get my mind right, especially, you know, we watch a lot of film. So watching film and being mentally prepped. We like to roll out. I think rolling out is huge. It gets your body right. But, you know, I think the biggest thing is just, you know, being with yourself for a little bit, focus on the present moment, and hopefully that'll carry on to a better performance in the game.
All right. It's been great talking to you, Joe. Thanks for coming on, and good luck this season.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
I'm now joined by freshman Tyler Morgan, again of Lewis Men's Volleyball. So Tyler, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So firstly, I'll ask what you're majoring in at Lewis and why.
So as of right now, I'm majoring in sport management, and that's just because all throughout my life I've been in love with the sport of volleyball. And so in my future career and everything, I kind of want to stay in the sport, stay in it really as long as I can.
Yeah, most definitely. And what kind of made you want to come to Lewis, you know, obviously being a freshman?
Yeah, so Lewis is, obviously there's not a ton of like men's volleyball programs in the United States, but Lewis is obviously a really big one, and it's probably the closest one to home. And so like when they reached out, I came on my visit. I knew they were a really good school and everything, and ever since we started talking, I just kind of like fell in love with it here.
Outside of volleyball, what's your favorite thing to do around campus?
I would say honestly just like hanging with the people here, because the people here are so nice, like so friendly. Like there's so many different athletes and different sports that just like you can talk to so easily, even like on the team, just going to other people's dorms, everything like that. It's just fun.
Yeah. So now a little bit more as a player for you. You've played in every set so far this season, to my knowledge. And as a freshman coming in, you know, a pretty well-known program, that's really hard to do. So kind of how have you been handling that, and is that something you expected coming in?
Not entirely, honestly. Kevin Calling is the setter above me, or that's 2 years older than me. And like when I first came in, I didn't really expect a ton of playing time, but just like we've had a bunch of different scenarios with COVID, just people getting injured. So we've had to move around a lot of different puzzle pieces just to try to figure everything out. Yeah. So it's been experience, I could say.
Yeah, and you mentioned Kevin Calling, obviously All-American setter, and you came in kind of playing the same position. Yeah. You're second in the team in assists behind Kevin. Has he kind of been any sort of a mentor towards you, or do you kind of both do your own thing?
Yeah, no, Kevin has been amazing, like just like helping me, whether it's on the court, off the court, really just doing everything. Like we have like film sessions together where he'll like try to help me, even during practice he'll give me little pointers, and he's been super nice, like just with everything really.
You mentioned Lewis is kind of close to home. You are from Iowa.
Yes.
And you had mentioned kind of in an article back at home, Iowa doesn't have high school men's volleyball, so you'd have to drive over 2 hours to your club practices every day. You know, you're obviously very dedicated. What kind of made you stick to the grind and not get discouraged?
Yeah, so when I was younger, like I don't think I knew another like guy who played men's volleyball. Yeah. But as I grew up and started going to a lot more camps and everything, I started to kind of like make friends. And Max Rocky, who's also on the men's volleyball team, he is also from Iowa. And we have played together. I think I've known him since I was 10 or 11, and we've just been playing together. But really, like, I just thought I kind of had to stay dedicated to the sport just because of how much time I put into it. And when I became a freshman, I started doing the 2-hour drive to Des Moines from my house. And really, I just like, I stuck with it just because of my love for the sport and
Yeah.
everything like that.
Yeah, and then just a couple more questions. Volleyball kind of runs in your family. Your sister and your mom both standout volleyball players. I guess a couple questions on that. Do you think they really inspired you to get into the sport? And then who do you think is the best player in your family?
Well, I would say my sister. When I was younger, I would always go to her club volleyball practices. And so, and my mom, like, volleyball has just always been a part of our family and everything. So I guess I just kind of got stuck with it almost, but I learned to love it and still do. And as for the best in the family, I don't want to like step on any toes, but I think I might be a little better than my sister, but
Well, you got to be confident.
Yeah, I don't have to tell her that.
Yeah, all right, final question. Just like I asked Joe, do you have any pregame rituals or, songs that you like to listen to before the games?
I would say my main pregame ritual is just like I know Joe said he likes to do just meditating. I guess I like to just kind of take a few deep breaths and really just get almost like kind of gain a little bit of confidence and just be like, get positive. Like, I like to go on the court and have fun. So like, that always is nice, but just like really just kind of get loose, get my mind mentally right. Yeah.
All right, well, thanks so much, Tyler, for joining us. That was Tyler Morgan of Lewis Men's Volleyball. Now we'll send it back to you, John.
Flyer fans, the Golden Corral in Bolingbrook offers an endless buffet of delicious comfort food classics located at 381 Brookview Lane in Bolingbrook. Stop by and sample their fried chicken, meatloaf, pot roast, and freshly carved sirloin. The Golden Corral offers a complete salad and dessert bar along with a wide variety of side dishes. Create your own unique and perfect plate. The Golden Corral in Bolingbrook, a proud partner of Lewis University Athletics.
Flyer fans, whether you're looking for a local getaway of welcoming friends and family to town for a short or extended stay, make sure to check out the Home to Suites by Hilton in Joliet, a proud hotel partner of Flyer Athletics. The Home to Suites by Hilton in Joliet offers gorgeous studio suites, equipped with a kitchen and full-size refrigerator. A daily free breakfast truly sets the Home to Suites by Hilton Joliet apart from the competition. Book your stay today. Give them a call at 815-727-3310 or visit them online at hilton.com.
Welcome back to Flyer Nation. It's now time to take a look at the week ahead in Flyer Athletics, brought to you by Home to Suites by Hilton in Joliet. The men's and women's basketball teams are back in action this week, beginning on Thursday night when the Flyers head down to the state capitol for a conference date with Illinois Springfield. The women will tip off at 5:30, while the men take on the Prairie Stars beginning at 7:30 p.m. On Friday night, the men's volleyball team begins its two-day West Coast trip in Malibu, California, with a matchup against fifth-ranked Pepperdine. Flyers into the weekend ranked 7th in the latest national poll and 4-1 overall. Then on Saturday evening, Dan Friends Club will invade Pauley Pavilion to take on second-ranked UCLA. First serve for the Flyers and the Bruins is at 9 o'clock Central Time. The men's and women's track squads head to Mankato, Minnesota this weekend. They'll take part in the Mark Shuck Open. The event will take place over Friday and Saturday on the Minnesota State University campus. And then on Monday night, Scott Trost Club will close out their 4-game road trip in Kirksville, Missouri, when they take on 19th ranked Truman State in a GLVC contest that was originally scheduled for January 6th before being postponed due to COVID protocols. That is our weekly look at the week ahead in Flyer Athletics, brought to you by the Home to Suites by Hilton in Joliet, a proud partner of Flyer Athletics. Visit them online at hilton.com. Stay up to date with all the latest information on Flyer Athletics online at lewisflyers.com, on Twitter at lewisflyers, and on Facebook at Lewis Flyers Athletics. That'll do it for us this week here on Flyer Nation. I'd like to thank head men's volleyball coach Dan Friend, as well as Flyer players Joe Kenzinger and Tyler Morgan for joining us on this week's show. For Patrick Hennessey, our executive producer John Kilpatrick, and our entire Flyer Nation crew, this is John Fitzgerald. We'll see you next week, right here on Flyer Nation.